Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Matt Nagy, VP of Engineering for Doorify MLS, and we're excited to sync up with you after our launch of EasyDigz in our Doorify Marketplace.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Matt too. Welcome, Michael. Matt and I are going to tag team today and talk to our friend Michael, who launched on our platform. Was that February?
Yes, sir.
February. Yeah, okay. I guess you were kind of soft launched around prop tech time.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been a few months and here we are. Matt is VP of Engineering, has kind of got his eyes on what's happening down in the engine room. And I'm out talking to the brokers and people in the industry a lot about what's going on. And I think EasyDigz is a great example of why we wanted to offer choice to the brokers in the first place. You're going to see a whole bunch of stuff if you haven't seen EasyDigz that Michael's going to show us today that isn't in a traditional MLS platform that you're used to. You're not used to finding the latest tech from your MLS people like Matt and I. We're the people that send you fines and notices that you need to come to classes and that your license is about to expire. But this is a different kind of model that we've built. We have what Matt refers to as the App Store. And EasyDigz is something, a really premium something, but it's something you can find in the App Store alongside products like Cubicasa and Real Reports and, gosh, a dozen others that are leading prop tech products out there. And Matt and his team have curated them to put them onto the dashboard and let our brokers have easy access to something that we know is safe to use, so they treat our data well. They follow fair display guidelines and all those other things that we require. Matt was going to ask Michael some questions about engagement and how it's going since launch, and I'm specifically interested in how you break through the noise out there and get people to even hear that EasyDigz is a viable way to run your business. I'm interested in how you're doing that, Michael, and to what extent that's been successful. Let's do that.
Sounds good, Matt. First off, thank you, Matt, for having me. It's always exciting to talk to you guys and get to geek out a little bit on the technology side of real estate. It's been a journey, as you guys know, and you've been witness to ever since I started attending, kind of the prop tech roundtables, Feller. So, I think first and foremost, to go directly to your question, a lot of our value proposition stems from this is the exact same problem that I was facing, being a broker here since 2006 and working in every aspect of periphery and real estate and all of the long tail, style deals that have happened throughout the real estate crisis and, the coming reinvestment that came after that by institutional investors, kind of like where the state government is, capturing its revenue to reinvest in a lot of the infrastructure that it needs for current developments that are going on, like we have Toyota Battery Factory and these other things, which require huge investments by the state and infrastructure improvements. And being able to see kind of like the dirty backside of real estate through it, we've been able to come up to practitioners and say, hey, I realize that doing XYZ is a burden. And a lot of times it comes around tool fragmentation. And that seems to be kind of our central talking point, not just because it's, what the core of what we built is, but also because that's a pain point that a lot of people state. And, when we talk to brokers of, small brokerages, they'll say, hey, yeah, my agents, I can send them a lead, but as soon as they don't re-enter it into the CRM, I lose visibility as far as what's happening. And those are really easy target pain points to just say, hey, listen, if your business was operating on a unified platform, like you would just know where everything was, and you wouldn't have to worry as much about your broker adopting it because their lead and the workflow and their documents and their clients' favorited properties all live within the same dashboard. And I feel like that's been kind of our key communication point. In addition, one thing that we've seen quite a bit is, as you guys are aware with some of the consolidation that's happening in the industry, there are large institutions who are very aware of kind of this tool fragmentation gap that happens, especially in US-based real estate. And they've been able to leverage that. If you look at the tool suites that are offered by some of the national portals, they are definitely not a compilation of a bunch of different tools. They are not one dashboard that you go to then inadvertently log into all of your other tools to get your workflows done. They have worked very hard in order to make sure that it is one centralized place where you can go and get your work done. And when we talk to brokers on both sides of that, on one hand, we talk to smaller brokers who haven't yet had the ability to experience that. And it can definitely increase visibility and therefore productivity for agents. And then we also talk to brokers who have experienced the national platform And they go, yeah, it's really neat. However, I'm losing half of my commission. You're like, okay, yeah, both of those are easy arguments to have. And I think those are kind of the core drivers of where we've seen a lot of adoption so far.
And you mentioned small brokerages. Is that your target audience, the brokerages that you feel that are best optimized by EasyDigz workflows?
Yeah. So, we've seen brokerages that have gotten acquired through some of the acqui-hire operations that have happened from larger portals. And those brokerages are typically in the 40 to 100 agent broker range. And they are actively looking for more tools on how they can better their workflows and how they can enhance their agent experiences. Like everyone is realizing that this is where real estate is going. But I will say, as a practitioner, getting the bandwidth and the technical capability and revenue allocation in order to actually build out some of these tools is extremely prohibitive to a lot of practitioners.
How do you convince them that they can even do that? Right, the thing that you just said, right? That's what I think that's the sales job here, because they don't even think that's possible for them, right? That they've already ceded that to the big guys or somebody whose brother is a computer scientist or something. So if I could try to land a plane for X dollars a month, you can get an instance EasyDigz that your client success people will help brokers get up on the internet, and it works very, very closely with Doorify because of the data engineering that Matt's team has spent God knows how much hours on.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and the reason we did all that is because we have developers tell us that it takes 3 hours, not 3 days, to plug into the Doorify data. And so now that that's all easy and you can plug in stuff with us, I'm terrible at this. I'm gonna tell you that we even have stuff in development where you never have to leave that environment. You can load a listing from inside yourname.com, and your people are inside yourname.com, and they load a listing. It's inside that environment. They never have to like have a tab open or something to some foreign company's brand and workflow. They're actually it's your workflow as the broker. And at the Real Estate Standards Organization, reso.org, for the geeks out there, we've spent so much too much time working on exactly that end result. That inside the broker's walled garden, she can build this place that her brand lives and breathes, and she doesn't need I won't name the brands. She doesn't need another like forms vendor to get that data into the MLS system. And I just want clean data coming in from authorized people. What vendor it comes in through is should be agnostic. We should be agnostic to that. So tell me, like, shorten that down to a guy's walking by your booth. You guys are at a lot of national conferences now. I see you out there. Somebody walks by and you're like, hey, hey, hey.
I would say that our quickest elevator pitch is probably our analytics and insight tool. So right there, you can say, how is my office done compared to similar sized offices over the past 12 months? What are my median price points? What are my list price to sales price ratios? Having all of that data available in a natural language search for you right off tops is the thing that like catches people's attention. As
Oh, well,
far
hang on.
as
You just said a lot there. So natural language search for one thing,
yeah,
on top of your not just your property results, but your stats. So
mhm.
you just said rank me or something, and what did you just say?
So you can see how you're doing on your price per square foot or list price to sales price ratio against
Yeah.
other brokers in your geographic area. What anything that you want. And one of the downsides is when I ask real estate brokers any real estate question, inadvertently you get, can I get a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house with cedar roof? And they think that that's like the trick thing.
Mm.
And it's like, well, you can go very complex. So like some of our more common searches, as we've seen people start to use that true analytics capability is, I have a given size square foot property within a zip code that I'm looking to market. How is this zip code adopting this given size per price per square foot target versus another zip code? And
Mm.
what types of features and amenities would I expect to have at this price point, given
Mm.
on everything that's sold?
It's like having an assistant, but I wouldn't expect my assistant to be that smart.
Yeah.
I right?
Yeah.
So you grab them with the stats, like you can say you could put your office in context with your competition, start to learn about, you know, market position and market share with natural language search. So that's pretty advanced. What you've got them in there, are there more basic things like how do I set up a client? How do I, keep my people up to date? is this thing, going to help me compete with the, we'll say that brand again out online, right?
Yeah, I think the key point that we move to beyond that is, hey, look at you can now see where your brokerage sits. And we kind of move into industry statistics of 84% of people say they would use their broker again. I think as of last year, 19% do. Previous year,
Mm.
21% did. So it's like 25% of the people that you would have as a repeat broker are the only ones that you ever see again.
That you could, yeah.
And part of that is because we have seeded the source of truth to a lot of national portals. And when you look at what they're doing, even to the brokers that work amongst them, they're inserting their name and their source of truth in between that broker relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could, in turn, continue to provide the search experiences, the client experiences, the regular updates from your own branded portal, you're now able to drastically increase the return consumer back to your site. And so it's like, well, even if that works 4 times in 4 years, you've effectively paid for the entire platform. If you could increase the total repeat consumer, you take a typical small brokerage who might be doing 50 transactions per year. And you're like, okay, well, out of all of those transactions, if once per year by NAR averages, you're having 12 people return back to your site. If you could move that to 13, the platform pays for itself. And so we say, here's how you download that consumer information, right? This is how you grab that consumer's attention. And then you move directly into, now that you have this market information, here's how you build the site specific content around who your target consumer is. You know who your previous clients were. You know what price ranges you operate in. You know what price ranges you want to appear in. And so it's like you can use those same analytics to assist you in building blogs and site content that's full LLM searchable. You can then also include those same blogs, which is long form, long continuity content so that it has an aging process over time, and build email campaigns, driving people back for relevant information. And so by decreasing the friction and saying, hey, I'm going to go out and get a Substack and write a blog about the XYZ piece of market information. And then I'm going to take my Substack and I'm going to create an email campaign about this, an active campaign. And on that active campaign, I'm going to send people back to my Substack, which is going to direct people back to my website. It's like your consumer's distraught and doesn't trust anything by the time they get there anyways. But when they see an email campaign come from your domain that leads you back to a blog on your domain, which is the same domain that they're getting their property updates and where they signed all of their documents, that is now the source of truth. And you are maintaining your brand as that.
And the trust relationship is not scattered. It's with you. And every time you deliver, you perform that. I think that's a great value argument. I can tell you've that's professionally prepared as a value statement. And I appreciate that because that's reflective of the work you put into the product. So I'm going to make it a little easier, I think, for our people and say that it isn't that EasyDigz has to do everything perfectly. I think it does a great job, like across the spectrum of stuff Michael just described, from searching to contracts. But you're going to do it somewhere, and you're comparing it to the scattered set of integrations that you have now, and that's I think EasyDig's competition. It's have a unified set of features that you can build trust around with your buyers, or stitch together different CRM and a different website and a different forms and a different property search, and they get still a different thing from the email. If those could be unified into one brand experience, like a very successful company like Apple tries to do, is to build a tall fence around their user experience. And, within that environment, they do it completely differently. And some segment of the buyers are going to be attracted to that. And we want to just fuel it. Job, my job is really to just flatten and open that data access, the APIs and MCPs we've been talking about. And once we kind of give a product like EasyDigz keys to the kingdom, what we're doing for the brokers and prop tech people out there, just to make it very clear, is Matt Nagy's system is built on licensing access or keys. And the company has a key, so EasyDigz is identified to us by a special key. And then when Michael sells a copy or licenses a copy of EasyDigz to a broker, that broker also has a key. And when Michael asks for data, he asks for data as EasyDigz on behalf of that person. And they are a participant subscriber of Doorify. So that person, not Michael really, gets all of their stuff. Say searches, if we can give them to him, contacts, certainly listings and all that stuff. all their engagement metrics that Doorify tracks, the number of times it's been seen on the internet in various places. All those things are available kind of in raw data form inside EasyDigz as if you'd logged into your MLS system of choice. It's the same access. Michael deserves the same access as the primary user interfaces that we think of as the only way to get MLS data. What we're trying to do with choice is to kind of crack all that open and give a product like EasyDigz that might very well solve all your needs as a broker or an agent without ever logging into the primary MLS products after you have access to a product like EasyDigz. You see it
Yeah.
that way, Michael, that that one day brokers might use this as their primary access to the MLS.
I don't have a crystal ball. It broke when I was born. And I would say that, like, if you look at how national portals are handling it, I feel like there are several deca-billion dollars betting that that is the kind of unified experiences that people would expect. And I
Mhm.
think that these kind of operating environments are the way that you're going to have to push that forward. And one of the reasons that I'll point out that, like, there's a bunch of people in the space trying to create integration layers between a bunch of disparate tools, right? We already see that happening. However, we've also been doing a podcast with a bunch of people who have either purchased or sold a house all over the US and in other countries, just trying to build a database of, like, what does the actual purchase experience look like for first time consumers, for an investor, and building out those profiles, right? And one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get is like, oh yeah, my real estate broker sucks, right? And we'll be like, well, why? What happened? And they'll give me a whole reel of information that is between them and the lender. Or they'll give me a whole reel of information that's about document clarity or understanding XYZ. And inadvertently, it's not the broker's problem, right? And they'll be like, well, I didn't receive until 2 days before closing this email that I was supposed to have done all of this stuff leading up to it. And you're like, well, why didn't it? It was in your inbox. There was evidence that it was there. And it's nice because we're not defensive. We're not the broker. We can just ask clearly. So then what happens is they'll say, yeah, but it's from this completely other different person that I had no clue what was going on. Or it's from this completely other different platform and I didn't know. And then, like, the broker doesn't have a centralized dashboard that they can log in and see. So, like, they never got notified that something was or wasn't done. It didn't get added to their Google Calendar. They just did the task that they had to and were hoping that the next person would. And inadvertently, it breaks that trust layer that people have between their brokers and themselves. Whereas if you're able to go in and say, hey, look it, here is your dashboard as a client. This is the next step you should be expecting. This is the date that you should be expecting this change around. And here's a direct portal to ask questions. Now, all of a sudden, your broker not only has that thing, knows whether or not you've touched it, has a way to follow up with you, but also they're not receiving calls from their clients going, what's next? What's next? And you're like, in a transaction today, you're 45 days, in some case, 60 days in, and there's a whole lot of what's next time periods in there. And working to resolve a lot of those client touch points is something that I feel like is integral to kind of how we built out the platform. This is because it's not just for brokers. It's inadvertently to offer brokers the best client experience for their clients. And so that's just something that we think is valuable and that we continue to integrate on.
Michael, you mentioned feedback, and that's a core principle of the agile software development lifecycle that we both practice, both of our organizations. What's some of the most surprising feedback you've had since you launched with Doorify?
I'll start with the shameful piece. And I know this isn't how I'm supposed to, but a lot of it is people not understanding what other features or capabilities are available on the platform. People will land with 2 or 3 features and they'll be like, that's great. And because of that, we've worked really hard to build some of our education and our outreach and prompting around how do you continue to build out the capabilities of the platform within your brand and everything else. And that has been one of the biggest surprises for us, is because we have, at a cost that you're already paying, all these other features that can help build your business pipeline and everything else. And just seeing people not reach out for the next tool, or not, the lack of inquiry or the lack of curiosity has been our biggest innovation or our biggest takeaway is, and
Ouch.
so we're working on how do we
Ouch.
put that in front of people.
Our friend Brian Baero from Thousand Watt had a conference a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how to grab people, how to get their attention. Like they're buying stuff, they've already bought it, they don't know it's in the thing. So how do you help with that, right? And he said that broad brush, realtor technology buyers who don't, what's the right word? Don't attach or engage with the technology enough to make it really useful for them so they'll keep using it. Those people are like, they're not reading what we're sending them about this because it's not interesting. And we simply have to tell the story better. And we're trying to do that, maybe sadly, with podcasts exactly like this one, where we have three techie guys talking about how to do techie things with techie stuff. And thankfully, we're talking about making money a minute ago, value proposition of the software. But what I'm trying to do is in these podcasts and give our editor a way to pull some 30-second shorts out that are going to metaphorically, like, you grab that guy and you showed him the stat screen. What you really want them to do is be liberated from this place that they're stuck now behind all this legacy stuff that they don't think they have an alternative for, to go to this just like this new company. It's entirely new. And that leap, that's the tough part.
It
And
is.
I think that you guys have success professionals who help people get their stuff in there and get it rolling. And
Absolutely.
you got to get it's kind of a funnel. You have to get the content marketing present with the blog post. That takes a minute to get that going. You guys are good at fleshing all that out, but it takes a minute, right, to get this going. Tell me how to approach them with something, Michael, that's going to hand them off maybe, or get them ready for your success people that will, give them a month or two to get the thing rolling, and you can show them what's going to do.
I think that's the month or 2 to get it rolling perception, because that's how a lot of software is work. One of our fun stats and challenges that we've done within the company and with other people is give me 30 minutes of your time. In 30 minutes, we're going to stand up your site, brand it, label it under your own domain, set up 3 blog posts over the next 3 weeks, and do email campaigns about it, as well as import, look at all of your work history that you've had within the past 4 years in the MLS, and validate all of your documentation. And we can, in 30 minutes of one day, you have a complete branded site, outgoing content that you can share on your social media, whatever, relevant market stats, and email campaigns going out all from your name in your brain. I'll go back to Matthew Nagy's question. What is the most surprising metric? Not for us, but for other people, it's really that if you just sit down and do it, in 30 minutes, you can completely launch your real estate career.
Well, that's amazing. That's a great answer, Michael. So, I mean, what is the barrier to that? That sounds like a quick slide to success, but what's the barrier to get people to do that?
So I'll say this. You guys, Matt, you've seen the platforms from the beginning, and the adoption part was a huge part of people's concerns or qualms.
Mm.
And so, because of that, we did the 5-part questionnaire that kind of fills in about your prior work history, how you like to present to customers, your preferred posturing in the market, your colors that you like to work off of, and your communication methods. And it's a 5-part questionnaire. The entire thing can be done in 5 to 8 minutes. And it's the first thing that you land on when you sign on for your Doorify page. However, we see a portion, probably close to a double-digit percentage of people who get two pieces of the questionnaire in and stop. And they're like, well, this is just one. Their perception that they stop is once they get past this next, there's going to be an indefinite loop of that. And so when our onboarding assistants and our support staff reach out and they go, hey, look it, I just need to work you through these next couple of questions. And so the way that we approach that is just ask them in natural language. How do you feel about these certain things in your outreach cadences? How do you want your clients to perceive you? Where are the markets that you work? And they go, great. And then when you explain that is what's left on the questionnaire, and you have a site that's launched all with already all of the SEO optimized ad copy, pre-populated in, that you can go in and elaborate on, advance, and personalize from there. But no matter what, if you can in 5 to 8 minutes have your base site structured and up and visible, I think it opens a lot of people's eyes because they go into it perceiving that it's a 2-month long process.
That's a short ramp to get your brand up. There's a lot of work after that. I mean, there's a lot of noise out there in the real estate world. You've got marketing to do.
So we see a lot of people that think that, Instagram is the way you market, right? You're going to need to do an Instagram post a day. Each one's got to be boosted by $20. You're going to have $600 to $900 a month in Instagram ad spend alone. Combine that in with Meta, do some linked advertising, and there's all of your content. The issue is when you look at traction for social media content over time, it typically drops off pretty drastically if you don't have traction within the first 72 hours or so. It's very
Yeah.
unlikely that someone builds a brand off of that because it's short-lived. It's all short-lived. which is exactly why we've focused a lot of it on longer form, longer duration content, such as
Yeah,
how are you presenting yourself
sure.
to your clients via the ad copy, is your site SEO optimized? If you have a vanity site, as a lot of real estate brokers do, and you're doing a bunch of social media advertising, all of the LLMs that are now searching people that, everyone's worried about how they're going to take over search. They're not prioritizing like Instagram shorts. You can
Mm,
show up with Instagram shorts, but if you're able to show up with like quality indexed searchable long form content that
sure.
demonstrates market expertise there in your area, and
Yeah,
you're able to outreach to those people based on their responses on your site and optimize
yeah,
for what that is, those are metrics that you can't even get back from Instagram or Facebook in a lot of cases.
that's right. Those are some, I think that's, isn't that interesting, Michael? We're kind of back around to traditional marketing and storytelling. And the little chats, right? That's chatter. And that's kind of getting people to come over to your story and tell that story in a longer way. And if you ask a model right now, I did recently, who is it that's the authority for information about affordable housing in the Triangle area going back over the last 20 or 30 years. And the models come back and say, well, I see this Triangle Multiple Listing Service issues the Triangle Affordability Index, and they have forever. We have UNC Keenan Flagler and these other entities as well, but we show up as somebody who exists in the historical record. So, marketing person, media person told me recently to think about the body of work that I've written about real estate. I would post out this month about a statewide MLS federation concept. That's your digital portfolio. And every new thing you do is another page in it. And some of the pages are little pictures. And some of the pages are books. And with the deep long form, you become visible to even the models as an authority. What do you think about telling somebody, buy an EasyDigz, fire up the domain with your real estate business or an aspect of your real estate business, and maybe you're into lake property and you live on the lake in North Carolina, and the site is focused on that set of properties with long form articles about water fluctuation and algae and stuff like that. And those things, if you do that I know you can get it set up in an hour, but if you do that over time and those articles show up continually, you can become the lake guy or the bungalow specialist or the ADU wizard. Those are little beachheads. What do you think about that kind of sub-market focus as an approach to real estate?
That is directly in line with what we're trying to incentivize. Far too many brokers think that they, as XYZ broker in Durham, is going to put an online presence against Zillow. And it's just like, I am all of real estate in everywhere. And you're like, well, that's not how you do it. The way that you do it in Durham is just, hey, this is my 4 square blocks. This is exactly everything that happened. Here's every home that sold. Here's the price per square foot. Here's the permits that pulled. And all of a sudden, you now are the source of truth for anyone
Right.
buying in
Right.
that neighborhood.
You used a
And
geographic fence to say it's the neighborhood. I gave a couple examples of other kind of objective criteria that you would say lake or horse or mobility challenged accesses doorways. And there are realtors that specialize in that. And I think you can establish an expertise, a practice around those things, and your team can have more than one. And within that kind of ecosystem, we want to support it with advanced data access that's less than a second old. So your app, we haven't said this yet, can be as fast as the fastest app in the App Store. And, essentially real-time alerts on property status and price changes, new listings certainly are part of the EasyDigz experience. That's not something we don't talk about it very much, but that's not normal for products that you plug into the MLS.
absolutely, I'll touch on 2 points there. One of the things that came into mind is like we have a lot of mid-century modern in the area, right? We have
Mhm.
the architecture school from NC State, and
Yeah.
because of that, there are people who focus on mid-century modern stuff. How do you differentiate yourself? It's like there's a lot of information that needs to happen for you to differentiate yourself. Second point was around like the real-time updates. And that is something that we absolutely provide. However, going into some of the customization that's available, we also provide not only the agent as far as how often do you want to reach out to these people, what types of notifications do you want your clients to receive, but also in the client dashboard, someone can say, hey, I don't want to receive property updates 17 times a day if my search is too broad. I want to put all of this together into a daily update. And you can select that as a consumer within your dashboard. And by being able to do that, you get to enhance that broker client relationship, because sometimes as a broker, if you're forwarding information on, you don't know how they want to receive it. So now you can just know that the platform is doing it, and understand, your clients can also understand, hey, this is the way that I want to ingest this. I'd rather have a weekly digest that I get on Wednesday at 10 a.m. because that's when I have time on my calendar. And I'll review it then. And you as a broker can look in and be like, hey, this person receives all of their updates. If there's something that's super hot that you need to get to them before then, you can do that because you know when they're getting their updates and when they can see it.
Talking to the subscribers for a second, I hear that, Michael, and I think it gives me as a business person more confidence to grow. If you have some confidence that the user experience is going to be the high level that you expect of your brand, it's hard to get that in a human if the human's going to be responsible for delivering it every time. But if it's part of the application's configuration, and then the users can kind of go and set it up as to their own pace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that, I mean, we haven't said this yet either. Got your EasyDigz hat on, but you're a very successful real estate broker in the real estate market. You show up in my stats, you have been for a while. You're not like saying, I just am a tech dude who rolled over and figured out how to make this. This is technology you built for your brokerage that you're taking out to white label again to other brokers so that they can deploy this in the way that your brokerage has found success.
Absolutely. And that is the journey that led us to create it, right? Is having been a broker here in this market since 2006. It's looking at the number of tools that I had to interact with in order to try and put together a client experience that I was proud of. And we've been able to do that over time. One of the people operating on our platform, which was part of our, core development cycle, now has 7,500 paid subscribers. So these are people who have paid to come onto the site to view properties. And that's just the business model that it chooses to operate under, that are getting all of their updates and subscriptions with hundreds and hundreds of sold properties through it. And this is all from not so advertising on social media, no paid ad spend, just regular informative content, posting about what you need. And it took 7 years. But if someone else has a 7,000 person subscriber list that isn't just total contacts that they kind of acquired through one way or another, but people who showed up on your site because they
A real
thought that you had
farm.
something valuable,
Yeah.
there's your business.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many business models, and we don't dictate any of those. We just try to support all of them. I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to get it closer to our subscribers watching this today if they're watching 40 minutes in. We really have a tool here that can bring their business together into one place. You use the word unify a bunch of times. You know how much better that you can imagine how much better that would be if it was yourname.com all the way through everything. And
Yeah.
I think you could afford to invest in it more if you knew it's gonna maybe there's EasyDigz 4 or an EasyDigz competitor one day that would still take Michael.com and operate that user
Absolutely.
experience. And then you can really afford to invest real money because that's your brand is never gonna change. You're not advertising, your email address. I saw it. God bless them. I saw somebody with an email address the other day. I swear, a professional person sent me an email address, and they're like what I'm supposed to reply to is their name at AOL. I swear.
And that's
Um,
also a security risk.
oh, it
Yeah.
says a lot too about who that person is and their level of, investment and professionalism. And if you have an AOL address, fine. But you can get an EasyDigz one with your professional name on it and have everything in the same place back underneath, but you're not representing yourself as somebody with a 30-year-old domain name in your email address who doesn't understand information security. You're bringing an actual tool that is really accessible by real people, not for, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. There are platforms out there that say they do what EasyDigz does. I'm going to say that few of them do. And you've come up because this is a brand new product, your first market to launch in. You've come up with like a intro price just to get people to try it. And I know we have over 100. people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, something like that are using it or trying it at various levels. Out of 14,000, I'd like to see that number kind of have a zero added to the end of it so we understand that people are really kicking the tires on this thing. That's why we're doing the podcast today, so people know about EasyDigz and Matt's team's support of it. It's one of those we don't have a lot of support calls. It's only a little over 100 people, but the people that have actually tried it all the way through seem to be satisfied with it so far.
Absolutely. It's always nice to hear that you guys are seeing the same thing as we are. I'll touch on one more thing, and that your comment about owning your brand. And that really is another conversation that is interestingly more difficult to have with brokers than we anticipated. Because when you are building your entire brand off of your XYZ national portal profile, that is where your brand is. Or if you're building it on any other institutional ecosystem, when you leave, that is your workflow is gone. And if you have a brokerage that happens to move, you now need to make sure, do all of my agents still have workflow? Do I still own that brand that I'm operating on? If you look at the NAR statistics, we've seen like a 56% uptick in brokers and brokerages that are moving. And it's not just, we don't want to isolate and say it's an individual broker, but you have entire teams that are moving in ecosystems. You have entire brands that are moving in ecosystems and what kind of support they operate under. And so if you're
Yeah.
if you're operating your brand or a brokerage of 50 or 60 people under one umbrella and you go to leave, how do you know that your operating system's staying with you? All of your brand that you built is typically under someone else's subdomain.
Sure. Sure.
And they're now owning your source of production, owning your domain and your URL. I think that in the future, there will be multiple EasyDigz style platforms. Like, I think that this is where the industry needs to go in order to ensure client experiences are appropriate. And I just, yeah, take it
Yeah,
or leave.
well, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
my message to our subscribers is that it is an actual way that you can really do that in the real world. That's a button on the dashboard. It's called Easy Digs for a reason. It isn't like one button easy setup. It is short, and Michael's team will help you through it. Most of our subscribers got into real estate not because they're super into technology, but because they wanted to meet people and get them into houses and sell real estate. And what we're trying to do is what Michael's trying to do, all of us, is get you out from behind the keyboard so that this stuff can be automated. Those settings we were talking about before can be done by the consumer, kind of self-driving thing, which lets you spend more time to go out and meet people, connect to more of those networks, and sell your listings faster and for more. That's our 2026 goal, to try and find ways to help you do that. EasyDigz is definitely one of those. Matt, you got any final thoughts before we let Michael go?
Yeah. So, Michael, we've known each other for quite a while. I've really enjoyed watching EasyDig's development over the last couple of years and bringing you to market. So, where do you feel EasyDigz is heading in the next 6 to 12 months?
I would say that our 6-month pipeline as of right now is building out some of our data structures a little bit better and making sure that we have some compound workflows, such as are your advertising clicks and understanding if your advertising dollars are returning to visits on your listing or your website or whatever that may be. As of right now, we have workflows for that, and we're trying to integrate that a little bit more to make it just a single click. Like, this is my ad campaign. What did it directly return to? Instead of having to click between two dashboards, that's still much more visibility than you're able to get through a lot of things. But I think that's on our 6-month plan. We're also working on how to ingest more and more data sources and then parse all of that back to the real estate standards organization kind of profiles. From there, our 12-month is really all focused around customer engagement and customer adoption. We think that making sure that our clients and their customers are pleased and happy is like the number one path forward. We don't want to give the impression that just because something is as it currently is, that is what it will be. And I know that those are the ecosystems that a lot of people have gotten stuck in when purchasing tools, is kind of like buying into the dormant infrastructure that doesn't have support, and just ensuring that if you use what you can see today as a capability statement, we have the ability to make sure your business grows, and that everyone that we bring on today is a partner, and our goal is to make sure that their business is successful, because that's our greatest claim to fame, is the number of brokers that we make successful.
I'm glad you asked that question, Matt, and I hope people have watched here at the very end, because Matt's team is about to publish like how many times the listing has been clicked on the internet in our MCP server to people logged into EasyDigz that are our subscribers. Michael can use that in his user experience. And you were just talking about pulling in other data sets. I mentioned at the very beginning of our time today that we're working on ad listing. Matt's team is in final testing of opening ad listing to multiple ways of doing that. We have one now, two if you count the rental leads for rentals, and we're about to add three and then more. That's, I mean, in final testing right now. So that's going to be in the things that we talk to EasyDigz about over the next 6 months or so. We'll be ready to do that this year for sure. A couple of
I'm
different
looking forward
ways.
to
So
that.
that's just good news. So right now people have EasyDigz open and they can do everything they need to do, except they've got to go over to a different browser to add the listings through the listing manager. And we're trying to get rid of that because we'd like all the activities to work through EasyDigz. Most of that looks a lot better than the MLS way to do it, which is the whole point, right? We're trying to give all these different ways so they can start competing with each other and we'll end up with a better product and outcome.
Absolutely.
Michael, thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Matt, for kicking us off.
All right. Great talking to you guys.
Yeah, Matt Nagy, thank you very much, man. And I look forward to our next chat. Matt Fowler, thank you very much, man.
Take care.
See you guys soon.